Hello from the flower farm on a lovely Saturday afternoon. I don't usually work on weekends, but I am working this weekend because I wanted to get a head start on all of the jobs that are going to start racking up in the next few weeks as flowers come to a finish, and I really need to get everything prepared for the season ahead. Today I am going to be clearing out a few beds of crops that are looking a bit sad and are finished now, and also I'm going to be pulling up some of the sheeting in the new flower field which has been killing off the grass and weeds underneath for a few months now, and I'm going to be sowing a overwinter cover crop in there. It rained this morning, which was quite nice. It hasn't rained here for quite a long time actually, and the ground is starting to crack in places, so it's a perfect opportunity to start sowing some seeds when the ground has a little bit of moisture in it. So the first job on the list today is to start clearing out one of the beds behind this polytunnel where I usually put lots of thick straw mulch down as a path material, and there's some achillea, some feverfew and some ammi in there that needs clearing out, so I'm going to go and do that right now. I started off by picking some of the achillea that was still suitable for drying. This is going to be really handy in my Christmas wreath making workshops and my Christmas wreath making kits. I usually put straw and compost down on the beds and the footpaths in this area once or twice a year, and I've noticed that the straw started breaking down really quickly, and this is a really good indication that the biology is really active in this area, and therefore there's lots of goodness going into the soil, and hopefully that's going to give us healthy plants. Next on the to-do list is to remove the sheets that are killing off the weeds and the grass in the new flower field. Usually I hate doing this job on my own, but luckily today was a nice calm day and I was able to pull the sheets up with no major problems. Then I got to work with my fork and wheelbarrow, spreading a nice thick layer of donkey poo and compost across the area. I posted some photos of this onto my Instagram, and a few people messaged me about weed seeds in the donkey poo. Because this area is going to be sown with a cover crop, weed seeds can germinate but will be killed off with a cover crop in spring. I really don't mind the weeds being in this area over winter. It adds to diversity and also adds more plant root exudates into the soil for the microbes. Well, I managed to get all of the mulching done on this area that has been covered over with tarpaulins all summer. I've got rye and vetch here, and I've mixed it in with a little bit of Johnson Sioux compost and some worm castings and some seaweed, some liquid seaweed, and those are all classed as biostimulants and kind of biological amendments that are going to add lots of living biology to the seeds and coat them with lots of beneficial substances that kind of act like hormones and increase germination rate and increase plant health and plant growth, etc. So this is going to give those seeds the best start, and I'm going to just spread them out on this field now by hand, and then I will rake them in, give it a good water, and fingers crossed hopefully the rabbits won't be able to get in here and spoil my good efforts again this season. Cover crop sown, I moved on to staking the dahlias. We'd experienced some really high winds this week which caused some of the dahlias to blow over. To prevent bent and unusable stems, I pushed in some bamboo canes and tied the plants up to them for some extra support. So today I've cut back a few areas that were, this one in particular behind me was a cover crop, and I've cut that back, and it is going to need putting a tarpaulin or something over the top of it to prevent things growing back. And then the beds over to this side of the field, this is has had sheets on it for most of the summer. However, the sheets weren't really pinned down properly, and I have had some regrowth of thistles. I struggle quite badly with thistles in that area over there. So there's one area that I'm going to have to put a strip of weed membrane on, and then the other bare areas I'm going to get Rob to scoop up the remaining donkey poo and compost that I've got in the new field, and I'm going to ask him to pop it down here for me so that I can remulch these beds here and plant my biennials and perennials in. And I also mowed down the snapdragons because there wasn't going to be any kind of new flower stems from them towards the end of the season, so I thought I would just chop them down. And I didn't realise how much I loved the fact that I wasn't using weed membrane anymore on the farm, apart from obviously to kill off areas of cover crop and weedy areas. And because I took the lawnmower and just went straight over the top of it, it was just so easy. In the past it probably would have taken me half an hour to an hour to clear it all out, and then I would have had to do something with all of the stems that I'd cut down. But in this case I just drove the lawnmower straight over it and it mulched it all into the ground, so I could literally plant straight into that, and the lawnmower's mulched everything up, so it's going to feed back into the soil, and that's a really nice strategy, and that's how I would like to do things going forward. So yeah, that's exciting. So this part here, I can never grow things in it because it is very dry. It has a lot of clinker in it, which is this kind of black stone that I don't know actually know what it is. It was used on the railways, and obviously our farm backs onto an old railway line, and this is why we have all of these old railway sleepers, which are here behind me on this wall. And I am not sure whether the railway sleepers are causing some kind of toxicity in this area of the field, because things don't grow as well the closer we get towards this wall. So my plan is, this is my friend Hattie actually suggested this to me, and I'm thinking that I'm going to go ahead with it next season, is to plant something like willow all along the edge of here to kind of ameliorate some of that, if there is some toxicity, to maybe help with that. Maybe a row of sunflowers next year as well, because I've heard sunflowers are really good with removing toxic substances from the soil. And because it's bare and it is difficult to grow in, if I can grow something in there, something quite bulky and sturdy like willow or sunflowers, then it'll be a win-win. So I'm going to try that next season and see how it goes. And then I think I can actually get away with is this bed here. So there's actually two beds behind me. This one is okay, I just need to mulch it, compost it and get it prepared for planting. And then this one here is obviously the unusable one, but if I left it to its own devices it would just become very weedy, and that's not what I want to achieve here on the farm. And I had a couple of comments last week about the straw mulch that I'm using here on the dahlias, and actually that's been a really good success this season, because I was a bit concerned because we seem to have had a major slugfest here in the UK this year, and I was concerned that this straw mulch was just going to attract lots of slugs, but luckily I've never had major problems with slugs in this field, and I am removing a lot of habitat by removing the weed membrane, although I am adding it with the straw, but it hasn't seemed to affected the dahlias much. And also it has helps to keep the moisture into the soil really nicely. There are some areas that have been exposed over the summer and they are really dry and cracked now, whereas the areas where the dahlias are with the straw mulch on are still quite moist, even though we haven't had a lot of rain. It's also helped to keep the weeds down really nicely, and I imagine it's keeping the soil a lot cooler and more kind of insulated as well. So I'm really happy with the outcome of using straw as a mulch here in this field, and I'll probably continue to do that as the seasons go on as well. On the flower farm, the plants work hard and I'm constantly cutting and expecting them to regrow new stems for me to cut again. I try to keep up with regular foliar feeding to make sure the plants are healthy and vigorous. Today I'm using a mixture of liquid seaweed, homemade fish fertiliser and homemade calcium as a foliar application on the dahlias. Plants take up these nutrients through pores on the leaves and primarily through the stomata, which is located on the underside of the leaf. So I always make sure to get right into the plant and spray upwards to reach those stomata. So this morning I picked and made up a bouquet for a customer who bought some flowers from me at the market in the past weekend and wanted to buy another bunch, and I'm amazed at how many dahlias are out in the field again after picking all of them on the weekend. I counted up yesterday and there's 55 more dahlias available to pick, so that's amazing. And I've got a few orders for bouquets this week, and next week I'm actually not here, but a florist wants to come and pick some flowers, so that'll be interesting for the florist to come and experience some flower picking here on the farm. But today, this morning, I'm just going to be planting out these foxgloves. They have been sitting in these pots for a while, but they're a nice size now, so I'm going to plant them out into this empty bed here, which is the snapdragon bed that I mowed down last week, and I'm just going to plant straight back into it with these foxgloves. So one of my mantras is to keep things planted as much as possible at all times, or mulched or covered up, rather than leaving the soil bare. So I am following my own advice here by planting out these foxgloves, which is something that happens quite rarely. So these foxgloves are a mixture. I think most of them are an apricot colour, which is going to be really lovely for next early summer. And then I've also got some Sweet Williams, some Hesperus and various other biennials to plant out. The hardy annuals are coming along nicely and they're just starting to germinate. I've still got some to sow that I'm just going to wait a little bit longer for, like the larkspur. I'm also going to try sowing some ranunculus from seed. I've got some saved seed from the delphiniums, and I also saved some seed from the Achillea argyratum and a couple of other perennials that I've got here on the farm that I would like to increase my stock of. So lots of sowing, planting, etc. to be doing, and I'm actually really pleased with how tidy the farm is looking at the moment, because usually it gets to autumn time and it's kind of stressful to get the field prepared ready for winter. So I'm ahead of myself on that, so hopefully when I start making all of my Christmas wreath things in the next couple of months, I won't be feeling too guilty about how much work there is to do out in the field. So anyway, let's get cracking and plant these foxgloves out. Well, that's another successful week here on the flower farm. I got lots done this week, planting out, clearing, sowing the cover crop, and of course selling lots of flowers, because we are still in the bulk of the flower cutting season. So I just want to thank you all for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to learn more about growing cut flowers, in particular if you are a beginner, then I have a really comprehensive growing cut flowers online course on my website that takes you through everything from planning your cut flower patch through to caring for your plants, preparing your flower beds, harvesting and various other topics. Then check out the link in my description to find out more. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the next one.